So welcome everyone, thank you for being with us. And today we are joined by our mentors from TEH Startup Programme. We, as Tardino 6, were a part of the event last year of this program as an initiative to support cultural institutions from the Caucasus region. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our speakers and mentors, Keulemans, Mikhailo Gluboki, and Ada Arduini. So please, thank you for being with us. The floor is yours.
My name is Mikhailo Gluboki. I work at the Azerbaijan Foundation. It's a foundation that was established in Donetsk, in the east of Ukraine. And it was working for 4 years in Donetsk. Then the war started. We were forced to move to Kiev. Now we're working in Kiev and other places all around Ukraine and in Europe. And also Azerbaijan is 10 years old, so we're trying to invest as much money and time and resources into capacity building programs all around the country and beyond. With us today, we also have Ada Arduini. And Ada, please, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Hello and salam to everybody. My name is Ada Arduini. I come from Verona, Italy, where I volunteer in the cultural field since forever. I'm really honored to be here. And I was also honored to be invited to be part of this project together with Chris. And this year we took care of the Southern European region. I work as a volunteer, as I told you, in my, let's say, cultural organization that doesn't have a space anymore. That was the one you see on the screen. It was the previous seat of our organization in an abandoned warehouse compound outside the city of Verona. But our organization is still alive, still doing culture around the city. But this is not my job there. I work as a literary translator from English. A few facts, very briefly, about TEH. Maybe you know already some of them if you have participated in the previous sessions. Very briefly, TEH is a network of independent cultural centers born from citizens and grassroots initiatives and set in former factories or buildings, refurbished buildings that didn't have anything to do with culture in the common sense, let's say. So I'm talking about ships or trains or former factories, former warehouses, former slaughterhouses, railway stations, and the more the better. The network was born in the 80s, and here I would like to remember the founder of the network, Philippe Combert. A marvelous, incredible man that had this idea of connecting 5 independent cultural centers that were born and had the same at the time and had the same characteristic, more or less. Philippe left us last year, but his legacy is what you see today. A network that today has got more than 120 members all over Europe in 36 different countries. We have also 14 ambassadors who are people who, let's say, have a past in the network and embody the values of the network itself. The centers that are part of the network are multidisciplinary. and share a common, also a common ethic about participation, about art, about diversity, about, let's say, common ideas of art and culture. TEH is very well connected on a European level with other networks, like Res Artis, for example, or On the Move. And since its foundation has launched a lot of cooperation projects on a regional or a national or a European level. And it's a great place where to connect with other people and other centers, to work together, to find the common ground, to share ideas, to compare problems, and to try to solve them also on a very, very practical level. I can briefly say something about my experience with TEH because I think it gives an idea that TEH is a network which is based on very strict relationships, very deep relationships between the members. And this gives the beating heart of the network, which are the meetings that we hold 2 times a year. Give this meeting their unique flavor, which is the feeling of being part of a family, but also the feeling of getting the most from this European alliance and this European friendship, let's say. I was in touch with TEH for the first time in 2007, and I participated in my first meeting in 2008. And the main thing that I remember is the fact that together with my colleagues, we went there and we presented our center in Verona, Italy. And the respect and admiration that we were given by colleagues that we thought we were so much more experienced than us. Like people operating in Norway or Sweden, for example, that also on an economical level were working on a different scale. But we had the feeling that what we were doing was important, and probably in TEH meetings we got the idea that this feeling of importance was something that we didn't get while we were working in our hometown, because working on for independent culture is hard. In Italy at least, and requires a lot of energy, especially if you are all volunteers like us. So TEH was for me a place of recognition, a place where I recognized other people that were doing the same thing as we did, and also a place of common trust, because after a couple of years I was asked to get up for elections for the board of TEH, and I was elected. So I had this wonderful experience of being for 6 years part of the board. Yeah, that kind of gave me a totally different perspective. Also, today, I can say something about the structure of TEH. So TEH is governed by this board, which is democratically elected, but it's also managed by an office which is set in Lund, Sweden. The two work perfectly together and collaborate all the time. We have one chairwoman and one managing director, which is also a woman, and I think this is kind of something to be proud of. What else? I mean, I cannot stress enough how meetings are important for us. Twice a year, every time we visit a different center. And in a different center, you can get the feeling of a different cultural program. You can understand how other people work, even if the field is the same as the one you work into. You can get a lot of ideas, and you can get support. You can share possible future projects. And so they open really a lot of new perspectives for the participants and for the members.
I will tell a couple of words about the Startup Support Program. And Startup Support Program is a part of Factories of Imagination project that has been run for 5 years inside Transferabkhalias, and we expect it to run for more years to come. Startup Support Program is a part of initiative to help emerging centers all around Europe, because despite having a lot of different situations in different countries, some of them would have support, some have no support at all, some other have situation when the governments discourage independent culture, but all these situations are gathered together in this problem that all the emerging centers don't have proper support, don't have proper resources to develop their potential and to be as effective as they could be. And Transferabkhalias did this mapping to find out the problems and situations in all the small centers and organizations all around the world, and came up with the idea to run the Startup Support Program that will help emerging centers to find the proper resources to do their work. So how it works? Startup Support Program has been already run in 4 regions, and the regions were defined by Transferabkhalias office. One of the regions, the first region, was Balkan region, with 3 centers selected from Kosovo, Greece, and Romania. Next year, the program ran in a region of Ukraine, Moldova, and Belarus, with 2 centers from Ukraine had been selected and 1 center from Belarus, a participant of Startup Support Program. Then the program last year was implemented in Caucasus region, with 2 organizations from Azerbaijan and 1 organization from Armenia selected to participate. And this year, as Asli already said, the program is being implemented in Mediterranean and Southern European region, with organizations from Portugal and Italy. And other in Greece are now experts in the program. But this program is still in action, so it's still being activated. And the participants of the program receive experts who come to help to understand situation in their places, in their communities, to define main stakeholders, their relationships, and then to find experts inside Transferabkhalias network to help them to solve some of the problems or to address some of the problems they have in their organizations. This is especially valuable because Transferabkhalias has been around for 37 years already. So of course it has a lot of experience and a lot of people who can definitely share what they can do and help emerging centers. Another really important aspect of Startup Support Program is mentorship, and I asked Chris to speak a little bit more about it.
We come and we visit, and after our visit, we know more or less the people and what they're about. And from then on, we continue with weekly talks online. All of us have experience with setting up cultural centers, and we offer our knowledge based on the requests of the startups that we meet. So discuss many different topics. Everybody who is opening cultural centers recognize. We talk about organizational model, can be very conventional, can be very radical, about curating the artistic program. We talk about developer annual budget, about fundraising, about how to deal with the owner, how to deal with the local and the national authorities, about how to reach out to the community surrounding your center, and of course, first and foremost, about how to create a platform for young and emerging creating talent in your center. As mentors, we listen carefully to what the people taking the initiative for a center are facing. And if we need to, we will support them. We will write letters of support. We will join meetings of negotiating if this can help in the communication with owners and authorities and funders. We also hook up startup centers to similar like-minded centers in the TransEuropols network, so they can exchange experience, maybe set up collaborative projects like this one, the Cultural Accelerator. Also, if it is possible, to exchange staff and artists to learn from each other. We also offer to every center a 3-day workshop focusing on a topic that they choose, given by professionals from the TransEuropols network. And all during this time, during 4 or 5 months, we talk with our emerging centers every week online, 1 hour a week. So we are creating a basis of trust and knowledge on which we can build. Now, very important for me to stress is we are called experts, but I think everybody involved is an expert. We are no more an expert than anybody else. I also don't make a difference between so-called professionals and volunteers. Like Ada calls herself a volunteer, but she's, in my eyes, she's an unpaid professional with a lot of knowledge and experience. You have paid professionals, you have unpaid professionals. Everybody has an equal right and position, in my view. That's what TransEuropols is about, and the startup program as well. We don't come as experts. We're not going to teach you how to do it, but we're a network of like-minded doers and thinkers and builders, and we share knowledge among peers. It can be a lonely work sometimes to create a center like this, to offer this to your society, not to receive the recognition immediately, to tackle all these practical questions that you're facing, but you're not alone. That's why we're here. Just to be clear, as a mentor, we do receive a modest fee from TransEuropols, so it's not unpaid professional work in general. But otherwise, we have no gains. There's nothing in it for us except for the most important thing, to see independent creative spaces develop and flourish across Europe. That's what we want to see, and that's what we give our energy and time for. And of course, after the official part of the startup program is over, we always stay in touch. We remain open for questions, because now we've created a basis of trust, a real connection. And of course, if the pandemic allows us, we enjoy visiting the centers again and again to follow the developments and to keep the connection alive. Thank you.
So in order to illustrate our work for the last 4 years, we came up with case studies to tell a little bit more about participants of the programs and what we found out during our visits and our research and our communication with those organizations. So, of course, the first organization is Tardino 6. You probably already know about this organization, and I believe Asli had did a great introduction at the introduction session and at the beginning of the program. But we'll be talking about this organization from our perspective, from what we saw during our visit. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible to travel to Baku at this time, so we of course did everything online, virtually, through digital tools. So Tardino 6 is an initiative from Baku, which was started by Asli Samadova, Olga Selezneva, Leslie Gray, and Azad Tsifovich. And it started as a series of exhibition and projects in a flat, but quickly became a big organization that works in a separate space. And if there could be a possibility to do offline events, it would become an important art space in old Baku, with a beautiful building, really capable team, with a plan of exhibitions and public programs that was already planned for last summer, but unfortunately still is not possible to implement because of pandemic, as we know. But this hasn't stopped Tardino 6 team from their work. And this, of course, became really important part of the of our communication, and it was really interesting to see that their activities hasn't stopped because of the virus, but instead just switched to online format and became even more important for the region. We know that Tardino 6 has launched this big survey and mapping of needs of artistic and cultural community in the region, as in the country, especially in times of COVID, which quickly became this mapping of needs of the community, not only for pandemic times, but always also for upcoming years, and how to build the future of arts and culture in the country. And unfortunately, this survey and the results of this research hasn't been implemented or hasn't been seen by local authorities, but organization quickly decided that they need to act upon these researches and provide some online activities to help artists and cultural professionals with a series of online events. So of course, this was also possible through communication with international partners, with other organizations from all around Europe and different countries who helped to do this program. One of the things that they did is crowdfunding program that was done together with 2020 Solidarity Fund of Wolfgang Tillman, another program of micro commissions that helped emerging artists who had no work during pandemic times to do small scale projects for online presentation, and this helped them to be seen abroad and to be represented on online platforms that are seen by professionals from different countries. And of course, using these connections with other organizations and networks from Europe to represent Azerbaijani artists and art scene to be known and seen, because of course for us, even for me, person coming from Ukraine, for example, from the east of Europe, and unfortunately Azerbaijani artists are not so seen as we wanted, and it was really great to have this possibility to learn more about artistic and cultural scene in Azerbaijan. And of course, thanks to persistence of Asli and her team, it was possible to contact all the cultural organizations of different countries who helped to support these programs. And it was really interesting to see that things that we are taking for granted here in our region, you know, connections with international organizations, support from local authorities, support from foreign authorities, is so hard achieved in Baku. And it's really great that Tardino 6 was able to do all the hard work to perceive their desires to support local artists and local art scene. Next organization is this organization in Italy, and I invite Ada to talk a little bit more about it.
This is a kiosk in a small medieval village between Florence and the Emilia-Romagna on the Italian Apennines. And when we received the application, we were immediately taken by it because we were thinking how it is possible to create a cultural center in a place like that. It's 4 square meters. So it's probably the smallest cultural center we have ever seen. So we decided to give them the chance to be part of the program. And I think it was a great, a great choice, because we discovered that this kiosk was an idea of 2 women in this village called Palazzuolo sul Senio, that actually are very passionate about contemporary art, and they come from very, let's say, refined background. They have been living all over Europe. They have studied art and cultural management, but then they decided to go back to the village and try to do something there. And we thought this was a very interesting perspective. The kiosk it's like the gate of the village. So it's the first thing you see when you arrive. And it's set at an intersection from where you can reach all different directions. So it's a kind of a symbolic place for them. It's like a border, but it's also like the opening of between the world and the village. Giada and Valeria, who are the 2 women that founded this cultural center, are extremely well connected with the village, and they manage the tourist office and the public library, and they also have the key of the local museum. And their intention is to put everything in connection because they believe in the power of contemporary art and contemporaneity to a dialogue with the past and with the local heritage, which is actually very interesting because it goes back to medieval times, but it also has some very liberty kind of Jugendstil pieces, which are very interesting there. Also, there is, of course, food culture there, and they would like to, let's say, to put everything together. And this is why they have chosen for this kiosk a special legal structure, which is called the community cooperative, that puts together culture, innovation, and environment. So they opened in 2008 with a sound installation, and they inaugurated it in the summer of 2019. And since then, they have started to do small exhibitions there, but also using the kiosk as like a window for different things. For example, one time they did a work on local dialect, and they put words of the local dialect on the windows. So all the people from the village could stop and comment, and and they are aiming to involve people from the teenagers to the elderly. So it's a very it's a very open approach to art, let's say. They are looking for artists doing site-specific installation or works of art. They did graffiti on the kiosk. They did photography exhibition that was centered on the past of the area especially the one regarding the Second World War and the partisan movement that was operating around the area. And they took the people also to walks so that you saw the pictures on the windows and you could go to the real places with the photographer. So they kind of created some local tours, let's say. So we thought that this approach of enhancing the touristic side of the village by contemporary art and with the contemporary art was very, very interesting. So today we are helping them in finding new artists to hopefully international to show their works there, and also to find a way to interact with the municipality in a more effective way.
It's a super special place, and it proves that even the smallest spaces can be super important for the town and for the community. They work very closely together with the local library, with the local museum, and with the local tourism office. It's all one thing. Now, I would like to tell you a bit about Salam Cinema, also in Baku. We worked with them online, Michailo and me, last year. It's a very different place from Tardino 6, as was mentioned before. It's not so far away, but the character and the aims and the community are different, of course, because every center has its own identity. It's located in the old Molokon prayer house in Baku, and now it's a creative platform for movies, audiovisual arts, performing arts. And to begin with, the Salam Cinema community, how do you say, inspired by Leli Gafarova and Elkan Husseinov, have done incredible renovation work on the building. We've seen their work on movies, on pictures, and this is a proof of dedication of young people, and our aim was on opening up the space to the surrounding communities for screenings, for exhibitions, for talks, for workshops. They support local filmmakers. They give the audience a chance to rediscover movies that have written Azerbaijani film history. And of course, they've been doing this in uncertain circumstances from the very beginning in January 2019. But through a successful public campaign, they succeeded in gaining an official historical status for the building, which means it cannot be destroyed, and they've prepared a professional design for the full reconstruction of the building, which is necessary because it's in a very bad shape now. The ground floor is still destroyed. The spacious basement cannot be used. There's no water or heating, and still, until the pandemic, the team was able to host in 2019 talks, workshops, exhibitions, parties, food markets, and no less than 75 movie screenings. You get just the first impression from the pictures we're showing right now. But the future is still uncertain. Building is totally clean. The spaces that are available are comfortable. The courtyard is like a fail. And the team hopes as soon as possible to invite all the major parties involved, including the Ministry of Culture, which with its new dynamic, and the Mayor's Office, and the Municipal Tourism Board, and the owner, to present their plans. And I can say as a supporter of some that the city of Baku will be wise, buy back the building, because this is a place that is so important and so urgent for the younger generation right now. It is open, it is inclusive, it has an horizontal organization, it is welcoming to all kinds of minorities. People are free to work on production, preparations, bars, screenings, presentations, cleaning, everything. And all of this is fueled by the idea that certainly in these pandemic times, we have no borders, actually, not between societies, not between artistic disciplines, because everything is virtual and online as it is today.
Next, the last but not the least place is in Ukraine, actually. It's from 2 years ago now. It's Dnipro Center for Contemporary Culture, and it's really interesting because it incorporates collaboration between independent cultural organization, state authorities, and private money that help to develop the building. So DCCC is a place that was started by a group of local independent cultural managers that were running cultural programs since 2014. They've been developing educational programs, and they've been developing urban programs, as well as a series of music events, performing arts events, and visual art events, but they never had their own place. So for the next 4 years, they've been working in different places all over the city, working with local libraries, local factories, local museums, and all these kind of places to host their activities. But they've been trying to reach different organizations that could help them to host their own, to have their own space to host their events. And fortunately, in 2019, they managed to find people from the city who basically developed different buildings, and they had this old building in the city center that was not used for years, and this was former regional council in times of Russian Empire. Then it was a place of army in Soviet Union times, and then it was empty for some time and hasn't been used at all. Developers were thinking what to do with the building. Either they had to remove it or to build some new expensive skyscraper place, or instead they would restore it and to do some cultural events in this place. And then they meet people from the Dnipro Center for Contemporary Culture, and together they agreed that developer will rebuild this building, and the team will start a series of public events in this place, and will develop a program for the place and for upcoming years. And then, of course, thanks to local authorities of Dnipro City Cultural Department, it was possible to fund some of activities, to pay for example, for utilities, to help with promotion, to use city budget for some of the activities hosted by the center. And what's really important that this year, DCCC hosts Festival of House of Europe, which invites artists and professionals from all around Europe to come to Dnipro, which is it's not a capital, it's a relatively smaller city in the east of Ukraine. And now all the activities of House of Europe, of British Council, French Institute, Czech Cultural Center, Goethe Institute are happening exactly in DCCC, which is a great opportunity for people of Dnipro, of course. It's a great success of DCCC team. And what's also really important that DCCC team managed to talk to local college to organize the separate course for cultural managers, which never existed in the city at all, to start educating new cultural managers that will do more work, which will develop new programs in the city, in Ukraine, which is really important for our country, but also everywhere in the world, I think. So yeah, these are our case studies. And now we want to talk a little bit about what we took from the studies and from our communication with the centers. So I invite Chris to start, and we will follow up with Adam.
I understand there's quite a number of people here at this session who work at the municipality, at the Ministry of Culture. And if I were you, I would think, okay, sounds good, but what do I get? What's in it for me? And I think there's a lot in it for you, because a thriving local art scene, which has a positive social impact, certainly among the younger generation, creates so much potential, including job opportunities. As Michailo said, it can be a welcome asset to the local tourism landscape. It will make the city even more attractive to visitors. And of course, in these centers, you're creating a growing pool of educated and well-connected young cultural professionals who feel responsible, not just for their centers, but for their society in general. So there's a lot to gain.
I totally agree with what Chris said. I think that it's important to nurture culture, and the tourism will come. I think that sometimes municipalities, I always speak from experience, for example, in my city, this is very much, they get confused sometimes. I think that culture has the potential in its, by itself to open a series of possibilities for tourism, but it needs to be done in a transparent, in a in a strong way. It needs to be supported strongly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Yeah, here's our contacts. If you want to send us a letter, if you have questions, we are at your service. And at the end of this presentation, it's something that you will have a link to. There is a link to Trans-Europe-Halles website, a little bit more information about Startup Support Program. Then there is this wonderful section on Trans-Europe-Halles website called Resources, which hosts a lot of publications, researches, and books about running cultural centers, working with local authorities, working with independent artists. It's really important source of knowledge that you can use. And also soon we'll be publishing a research that is the result of Startup Support Program for years work. So don't miss this part. And of course, there is this full case studies of centers that we were talking about today. And of course, this new Startup Support Program round that is going on now doesn't have any case studies printed yet, but they're yet to come. Don't miss them. And I think we have a couple of minutes to answer your questions. So. And it depends, of course, on the center. Sometimes the events are really packed every day, really hard with lots of collaboration. Sometimes it might take months with slow pace meetings once a month, once a week. So of course it depends on speed and pace of Startup Support Program participants.
You're very welcome to assist. In this case, I'm not sure who do you want to assist. I would say if you're local, if you're in Baku, Tardino 6 and Salam Cinema are places that will always need your energy and inspiration. Otherwise, you can also connect us privately, of course. All the people who ask questions here are free, at least for me, to send me an email and we'll start talking. I would love to go to Barda again, where the History Museum is. I was there a long time ago. I would love to go again. And yes, when the pandemic situation is over, I would love to come and exchange experiences.
Well, we started Tardino as an independent self-funded project in 2019, and it was really hard to sustain all the activities of ours, just having that on our shoulders. And right now we are also, because of the pandemic and because of a very difficult financial situation, we're always very happy when someone wants to support us, and we did have donors who assisted us with in-kind support. It's not necessarily that it has to be funds, it has to be money. It's always time is appreciated, everyone's time. Ability to share your knowledge and network is another important part, and in this one we really are happy to be a part of TEH. So if you would like to assist us, please follow us on social media, get in touch with us, and share your ideas. And I would like to mention that right now there is one project that would really need further support. It's a project called Art on the Wall, in which we invite local artists to, and we pay them a commission fee to organize, to have this, and when you, Mihailo has shared earlier the photo of our gallery and the facade. So we don't have enough funds to make exhibitions at the level we would like to, but we use this space outside of our gallery to attract attention and to also give visibility to the artists. We made the project with Orhan Husseinov. Right now you will see artworks of Samir Salahov, both are Baku-based artists. We would like to continue doing this project with female artists. And the first two editions were supported by German Embassy. And right now we are open and we are actively looking for funds to continue this initiative. And I would like to thank especially Chris, because this idea came to us of promoting the space. And we asked our artist friends to do some digital murals on our building so that people would recognize and record it in their memory that this is the space of Tardino, although it's not open, but it will be eventually one day open. And seeing that much positive feedback, we decided to make it physical. And this is also a value of a mentorship when you have people who look from you from the side, observe your activities, and could come with a very simple and straightforward solution. Sometimes when you are, which you are also not able to understand because you're so much focused on something else. So I just want again to thank our mentors for this brilliant idea of making our space visible and how it continued into the physical project. So thank you.
Please get in touch with us privately afterwards. But I hope we have given you an idea of how you can start up a cultural center from zero, inspired by people like Asli, Leili, Ilkan, people in Italy, in the Balkans, in Ukraine, in Belarus. The inspiration is right there, and Mihailo has given you some sources to check after this presentation.
I want to add that this website has books about exactly these things, about financial models of programs, about architectural aspect of organizing places. So if you're interested, you can go and read this. And Translator Palace is open for collaboration, of course, from everywhere. And if you want to become a member of Translator, you need to be working in a reuse space that used to have different purpose before, and to be multi-disciplinary center doing different kind of programs. One thing I want to also mention that inside Translator we have East Hub, which is the program for organizations working in Eastern Europe and Caucasus region, and also in Central Europe. So this helps centers to build relationships and to develop mutual programs in the region. So also, if you're interested, you can contact us and we will let you in.
What I mentioned in our opening session, the fact that it would be very difficult to make event like Cultural Accelerator in real life, not only because of pandemic, but also because of this quite ambitious idea of inviting 34 speakers from 22 countries, from 3 continents, just in 2 months. Like the real program that we have developed, we conceived it in less than 2 months. And for the physicality, making this event physical, it would be very difficult to book everyone, to travel to Baku, and also to financially cover all these expenses. So there is also beauties of doing digital projects and be in the digital world, but we all are very missing the fact of not being together and not sharing the same room